Hey class, for this exercise we're going to be learning a little bit about keyframes. So I'd like you to open up After Effects and open a new project. And in this project we're going to create a new composition. So we could create it here or up the top, composition, new composition. For this composition name, let's call it main comp. And we're going to keep our settings from the last time, 1920 by 1080. Frame rate 29.97, that's that broadcast rate. Or we could do YouTube, a flat 30. Or we could do 24 frames per second. But I'm going to stay with 29.97. All right, for my background color, I'm going to keep that black, but remember that that is not a real color that will render. Instead, we need to create a background color. So to do that, let's go up to Layer, New, and create a solid. This is just going to have a white solid background, and I'm just going to pick white all the way up at the top here, and hit OK, and OK. Great. I'm going to lock this layer as well because I don't want this to move around. So that's that little lock button right there. Now for this exercise, I just want to talk a tiny bit about type. So please go to Google and search for sharp grotesque. And if you can find it on defontfree.io. And then what you're going to do is scroll down a little bit and go to download. And then you're going to click download one more time. And it will download to your downloads folder. I'm going to open it up. And you can see there's a lot of different fonts in here. And what's interesting about this font is that it's variable width as well as variable weight. So what I mean by variable width is this black 05. It goes from a width of 5 to 25, so it'll be very thin to thick. And then it also goes from a thin font all the way up to a black font, which is the heaviest weight. So let's select all of these by holding down Shift and clicking all of them. You're going to press Command and O to open them up. It's going to ask you if you want to open 63 items, and that's okay. And it will automatically open up this font in Fontbook. And so here you can see thin 20, so it's quite wide but very thin font. If we went down to, let's try medium 25. So you can see it's got a much more weight and still quite wide. If we go to light 05, you can see that it's very, very thin and very light. But something like a light 10 is actually quite nice. So I'm not going to replace the ones that I have, but I want you to hit the install button and install this font onto your computer. All right, so I'm going to go back to After Effects and create a new text layer. Now you can go into this properties side and go to your character menu and try and find sharp grotesque. If it's not here, you can also restart After Effects. It should start, or you can type in sharp and it should come up. If it doesn't, let's just restart After Effects after you do a save as. And let's just save this as our keyframe projects. Cool. All right, so if you have to restart After Effects, that's okay. I'm just going to change the color so I can get a nice medium-ish orange. All right, I'm going to click anywhere with my type tool. So I'm going to grab that type tool, click, and what we're going to say is, let's talk about. And you can see this is sharp grotesque thin, so it's incredibly thin. And it has a very light weight, so thin is the lightest weight, I think. All right, so I'm going to select all this and let's make some changes. You may also be able to see this in your properties menu as well. So Sharp Grotesque is the font. Let's use light 15. So I'm just going to scroll down to light 15. For my size, I'm just going to use my arrow tool to move this over. For my size, I'm going to use 200. For my line distance, I'm going to use, or leading, I'm going to use auto. And then this is where it gets interesting with our tracking. So tracking is really fun to play with. You can make your lines, your words or letters overlap, or you can spread them out really wide. For this particular one, I'm going to do -50. So just click on the down arrow and do -50, or you could type in -50. I'm going to use an orange, but feel free to use whatever color you like. Now there is a more button down here where you can see more options. And then for our paragraph, let's make sure that we're using centered. Now I'm going to close up, or close this properties panel and go to my align panel. Remember, if none of these are showing, you can always go here and click on them to make them, add them over to the right. So I'm going to go to align, and I'm going to align this layer to the composition by first centering it horizontally and then centering it vertically. There we go. Now I'm going to make another line. So I'm just going to click off of this. So just click an empty space, go back to my text tool, and let's add one more layer. And let's call this Keyframes. And for this one, I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to go down to my more, and I'm going to change this to all caps just to give it something new. It's going to be Sharp Grotesque. This one is going to be bold 15. So let's go to our 15s and select bold 15. And then you can see these are really overlapping. I'm going to switch to my arrow tool, my selection tool. And basically what I want is for this keyframes to be aligned with the L here and with the T, so it's spread out. So to do that, I'm going to view, and I'm going to go to show rulers, and then I'm going to create some guides for myself. So if you click in the ruler and drag, you can create a guide and just line up that guide with the left side of the L, click and drag and line it up on the other side with the right side of the T. And now I know exactly the width that I'm going for. So I am going to grab this guy and use my tracking. I'm going to click in this area and then drag to the right. And that just spreads out my letters. And I'm going to go until I'm pretty close to what it is. Now notice that my text isn't 100% centered. So I'm just going to kind of click over. And let's go to, there we go, like 110, 111. There we go. And I'm just going to manually center this so that it aligns left and it aligns right. So now if I click off of this and actually go to view, I can hide my rulers, view, and hide my guides, and then hide my rulers just by clicking on that again. You can see that we've got, let's talk about keyframes. Perfect. So now I'm going to do one more thing with masking, which we'll do in our next exercise. So let's stop there for this first part and move on to the next exercise. Thanks, class.